It was extremely rare to find people who didn't know somebody who was lost to the war, somebody young, somebody inspiring, somebody with a lot of ambitions. My name is Madadi. I'm from Afghanistan, and until very recently I worked with the Afghan government, where I was directly involved with the peace process. The past 3 months has been draining and frustrating at the same time. As a young person working with the Afghan government, I wanted the conflict to end at a very, very personal level because I had been affected by it personally. I had lost friends to it. I was injured once. The closer I had access to how the talks were conducted, the more bleak the picture looked to me. I was not hoping anything to come out of that conversation, and nothing did. I spent my early years under the Taliban, but I was very young to remember all of the details. But I vividly remember the aftermath of 9/11. The entire Taliban regime was gone, and there was a new era dawning on Afghanistan. My family belonged to an ethnic and religious minority that has long been persecuted throughout Afghan history, and especially by the Taliban. So for us, the aftermath of 9/11 brought a lot of opportunities. None of my parents had gone to school. For them to see their children pursue their dreams, go to school and have a public career was something very, very unprecedented. But my story and the story of my family and my siblings were not an exception at all in Afghanistan. In remote villages, in remote provinces, women, for example, biked. They participated in singing competitions, in music. The country changed dramatically as a result of the international presence in Afghanistan. In the early years after 9/11, there was a huge amount of hope and optimism about where the country could be going, but that optimism continued to decrease. Attacks continued to happen. A lot of people were caught in crossfire between government forces and the Taliban. There were aerial bombing from the coalition forces and Afghan forces that mistakenly targeted civilians. It was extremely rare to find people who didn't know somebody who was lost to the war. I particularly remembered a friend, a very promising financial analyst in May 2017. The attack that targeted German embassy killed him. I remember the last time I saw him when he came to my house and had to leave and couldn't stay for lunch because his wife wanted to go out for lunch. And he joked and he said, now he has another boss, so he has to go back. And after the incident, that moment of our last interactions continuously replayed in my mind as an image of the personal nature of the loss that we were incurring in the war. The problem in Afghanistan, the chaos and the mess that we're observing right now, was not the making of only Afghans, but of also internationals, and especially the United States, who had a very strong say. The manner that the withdrawal was conducted was extremely problematic, and it gave people that sense of betrayal. The recent drone strike by the United States military killed fully civilian family, 7 of them children. The most painful part of this is, as the time passes, most of these incidents will be forgotten. I don't think if 50 years from now we're talking about the American involvement in Afghanistan, people will mention the airstrike that killed a family of 10. There was an expectation that the Taliban would have changed the same way that Afghanistan has changed for the past 20 years. But that's not true. The Taliban have changed, and they have changed dramatically, but that change is not positive. The Taliban is more resolute, have far more resources, but in terms of their behavior inside Afghanistan, the level of their brutality, nothing has changed. Women in the government offices have been asked not to return to their jobs. Music has been banned. Journalists have been detained and tortured. People have been killed in summary executions across the country. Only because there were problems with the way that the Afghan government performed does not make the Taliban better. I think it's a very complex feeling. To say that I'm sad or angry only or frustrated or hopeless, I think would not cover it. Things don't look any hopeful or promising on the ground. But I also know that Afghanistan has changed dramatically for the past 20 years. The image of women on the street who protest against a regime like the Taliban that does not recognize protest as a right is a sign that would make me hopeful. I basically left Kabul only with a carry-on. The day after Kabul collapsed, I was expected to travel back to the country, but that plan was interrupted by the fall of the capital the day before. I left everything, my personal belongings and even my clothes and my suitcase back home. One of the things that I'm reminded of is a picture of my mom and my youngest sister that I always had on my office desk as a source of inspiration, because my mom never went to school. She is part of another generation, but she also tried so hard to send her children to school and make sure that they have an education. And my youngest sister, an aspiring student. To have those two generations of women on my desk was something that told so much to me about Afghanistan, where it came from and where it was supposed to be going.